Screened by a copse of ancient trees, Wilsby Hall in Grimsby is a hidden gem of significant social, architectural and cultural interest in North East Lincolnshire. The hall was commissioned in 1890 as the family home of Sir George Frederick Slight, 1st Baronet of Wilsby, reflecting his wealth and status in society.
He started out his business empire as a youth. He'd have a donkey cart, he'd go down to Cleethorpes foreshore and he would collect cockles. So he'd then take them on a donkey cart to Grimsby and sell them. And that's how he started his empire.
It was the beginning of a business empire that would eventually see George own the biggest fleet of fishing trawlers in the world.
He ended up with a smokehouse, engineering works, shipbuilding premises. And then he decided he needed a country seat, and so in 1890 he then bought some land off Edward Heneage, and that became what is known as a campus now. He had 5 daughters and 4 sons that lived here with his wife. And the ground floor plan shows a drawing room, and the drawing room has beautiful painted flower garlands around the walls and ceiling, and they were done by a travelling Italian artist. And then there's the dining room, the sitting room, and then we've got the billiard room as well, and the marvellous hall with a galleried landing. Every room had a fireplace. Each one is different, the tiles are different, and some of them are beautiful tiles, and on the whole they're pretty well intact.
When the last of the Slight family departed, several uses were considered for the hall in the 1970s. Some tried, but by 1980 the hall had fallen into disuse and disrepair. In 1971, a group of educationalists recognising the lack of post-16 education for young people with learning disabilities began to consider how this could be provided.
Well, I think that we were all working with young people, particularly those with special needs at the time. We recognised that at school leaving age there was no extra provision for them. So we wanted to provide a period of 2 years at least further education.
And subsequently in about 76 we registered that group as a charity. We opened our first college at Toyton Hall near Spilsby in April 1979.
And we could see that it would provide somewhere where these young people could learn to be independent and gain work skills, social skills, and the skills you need to make friends and live independently. It was a tremendous need. Within 2 years we had a 2-year waiting list. By the time it was 3 years we had a 3-year waiting list for places. So we had to open another development which led to the development of Wilsby Hall.
We became aware of this property, and when we visited we saw its potential, especially its grounds, which were consistent with those the environment that we have at Toyton Hall.
The Wilsby Hall campus was first opened in 1982 and expanded in 1986 to give learners the experience of a hall of residence, where they were encouraged and supported to gain extensive independent skills.
When we first took the property over, we carefully adapted the huge rooms into bedrooms, but we were careful to maintain the care of the building insofar as you can take out the stud walls that we put up and adapted, and it still leaves the architrave and everything else still there. Fireplaces were not removed, and so this became a real hub of a core part of Linkage, because it was a residential college, the whole building. And what always surprised visitors was the quality of the building, why it didn't get damaged by all these young adolescent people who were running around and tearing around. But they took great pride in it. It says something about how you regard people with a disability and the students in terms of the physical environment in which you provide for them.
Wheelsby Hall and Grounds play an important role in Linkage's commitment to valuing and supporting individuals, their carers and families to help them achieve their aspirations.
I think having the right environment for people to succeed in is hugely important. So when you come here to Wheelsby, not only do you see the magnificent historic building, the grounds and the environment, the being at one with nature.
The trees, which are amazing, and the sense of calm that you get being here.
It's welcoming, it's safe, it's large.
It's lovely, it's a privilege to be in a building like the hall. It's a privilege to have such lovely setting.
The grounds especially create an atmosphere where we can take part in a lot of activities in a safe environment, especially due to the pandemic and not being able to go out and about as such.
They do, they have a great time. Yeah. They do. And they look forward to it, they really do.
I come here because the activities and boxing. That was amazing.
We have guys that come in that then move on to independent living. We have anything from making a cup of tea to yourself to living on your own. We cover all of those, and each one of those is important. When we have parents and carers on the phone, you know, saying how happy it's made them, that they can help them dry up, wash up, do their own washing, those independent skills that we take for granted every day for what we can provide, and see that journey happening, that's what makes me come to work every day.
And some of our clients, from the first day that they come through the door, maybe not coping too well, to where you see them 5 years down the line and they're absolutely different people. And that is the impact of what is being made by the support what's in place, because we do have some fantastic support in Linkage as well.
And everything that we do is for our clients, and I personally think that there's nobody else out there that's better than us.
Wheelsby Hall is a part of Linkage. Yeah, it really is. It's a huge asset, and being the grand building that it is.
In recent years, the continued deterioration of the buildings, issues of accessibility and changes in provision meant that much of the hall and outbuildings were no longer fit for purpose, and options were considered for the future of the site.
The biggest problem is access. We have 5 steps at the front, and we only have 1 ramp fire escape at the back. And a lot of the parts that we use do leak.
The historic buildings really aren't fit for purpose and can't really be used in the way that they used to be. So the outbuildings are barely used, they're used just for storage, and the main hall, the upper floor, can't be used for fire safety reasons. They're not being used productively, they're draining cash from Linkage who can't fund the maintenance requirements of these buildings. So as a result of that, we applied for some funding to carry out an options appraisal from the National Lottery Heritage Fund. Out of that came a proposal for the former outbuildings to be used for a residential facility for clients that Linkage currently aren't able to support. So this is people with increasingly complex needs.
Increasingly so, we've been asked to provide support to a wider array of people with more severe learning disabilities.
As far as possible, we like to keep people at home with families. But for those who do need to come into residential care, they often have a range of complex needs, and we wanted to provide something in this local area, and there's nothing available here at the moment.
And then for the hall itself, the plans for that area are to move staff into the upper floor, reinstate the original rooms, the room layouts, which are still full of fireplaces and original coving, and it's wonderful up there. And then downstairs to focus on care training, because this is an area that Linkage have identified is a need in the area.
Particularly over the last 2 years, I think the whole of care has relied on online training. And actually, when you're caring for people, it's a people-to-people service. It's all about relationships.
We hope to develop our the skills of our own workforce, but also be able to use our training to upskill other providers' workforces, and to be able to use it as a way to add to the charity as well by offering those services.
Another area that Linkage would like to include as part of the future project is greater public access to the hall and the grounds. We've had a couple of Heritage Open Days where members of the public have been able to come and tour the hall and the grounds, and people have been astonished at this hidden gem behind the trees. And I think there's a sense that through this project we can share with the public more of the hall's history.
With charitable aims and practical plans for its future, Linkage are the safe custodians of this hidden gem in the heart of the local community, a significant part of the heritage of North East Lincolnshire.
We need to apply for funding to be able to safeguard the heritage of the hall for the future, whilst enabling Linkage to carry on delivering and expand its services.
I think it's our legacy as a place. I think people need to attach to the past whilst embracing the future. We have some amazing buildings in this borough. Grimsby has a deep history, and we should do our best to celebrate that history and preserve it.
It's at the heart of Linkage. It holds so many important statements about what Linkage represents, and it's about creating environments that are conducive to people's development and happiness in the end.
It's part of Grimsby's history and heritage, and we don't feel that should be lost. We need to protect it.